Okay, gonna get a bit of a cheating jump start on Magical Readathon for Owls. Because my boyfriend and I, working from home, have been listening to a lot of audiobooks. And I have the audiobook for Someone Who'll Love You and All of Your Damaged Glory. And he wants to listen to that too. So we're gonna start that even though we're a couple days early. Because it might not even end up counting if I don't go for Hogwarts Professor. But this is by the executive producer of BoJack Horseman, Ralphio Bob Waxberg. And I don't know too much about it. Reads with Cindy recommended it, and she reads a lot of like self-help nonfiction sometimes. But it's like a bunch of like romance short stories that are just kind of, satirical or humorous, but like dark humor, surreal stuff. So I will let you know what I think of that later. So it's the 1st of April, just want to get you, oh my god, I'm really bad at holding a camcorder. Just want to give you a heads up on what I'm planning for right now. Still reading Someone Who Will Love You and All of Your Messed Up Glory, which is real weird. I'm listening to it as audiobook with my boyfriend. It's a little awkward though because we're at home with my parents, and some of the stories are not ones I would want to listen to with my parents in the room, specifically my mom, who really doesn't like swearing, so it would make her uncomfortable. So far though, the only story I've like genuinely enjoyed from it is the one about the goats, the couple planning for their wedding, and that one is really the only one either one of us has enjoyed so far. So we'll see. I might actually quit that, and if I do, I'll pick something else if I get to the points where I need to find something to fulfill that prompt for, I think it was for arithmancy, for the Hogwarts Professor. But to start on the stuff that I actually need for Magizoologist, I have This Is How You Lose the Time War as an ebook, so that's the one I'm going to get started on, and I will let you guys know how I like it when I get there. Alright, bye for now. So guys, it's supposed to be like a 1 hour reading rush. I'm starting like half an hour late because of work stuff. I had a conference call, but I have some tea here, and I'm gonna sit at least for a little bit. I'm really bad at this. I'm gonna sit for at least a little bit and read some of This Is How You Lose the Time War. So, yeah. What?
What's the matter?
This book doesn't make any sense. Phrases just thrown in there like, Ontario sucks, as the prophets say, are just very weirdly placed.
But it does.
So is this
As
like
the
a
prophets
10-minute power hour read?
I don't know, I'm gonna try to get like 15-20 minutes in
Of what?
reading.
On camera.
My viney hivey elf world, as you say, versus your techie mechie dystopia.
Oh, so this is the whole Phineas and Ferb.
Sci-fi versus fantasy.
Yeah.
It's a weird like war taking place throughout history, and it's this time travel stuff. I don't know. I don't understand the background here, but at the core is a love story. All right.
Okay. You say so.
Much reading done this weekend, but I did finish Someone Who Will Love You and All of Your Damaged Glory, which I realize I may have been saying the title of wrong this whole time. It was interesting. There were definitely a couple stories I really, really loved, and a couple stories I really, really hated. It really just left me with mixed feelings. And I'm not sure. I ended up giving it like 3 stars just to kind of convey that like I both loved it and hated it. There are a couple really good stories. The one that I talked about before about like the planning of a wedding, and the dog one was adorable. I liked the superhero one. There's another one at the end that was kind of good. There were a couple really good ones, but for the most part I just didn't care for it. So it ended up coming out to like averaging out to like a 3-star read, which I find a lot of like collections of stories like that kind of end up that way, just because there's so much variation. And I haven't really made much progress on This Is How You Lose the Time War, so I don't know if I don't think I talked about it at all, what it is. So this is a weird like sci-fi lesbian romance. It's about these two operatives, red and blue, that are on opposite sides of this weird war that takes place like through time, as the title suggests. And they start exchanging letters back and forth, and it's written in such a bizarre way, and I love it. So like basically like each scene is like there's a scene from the perspective of one of the characters, either red or blue, where they find the next correspondence. I can't even call them letters. And then the next thing is just what that correspondence said, and then it's the perspective of the other one. And it's cute, and I'm liking it, but it's taking me kind of a while to get through it, mostly because I'm home, and it's hard to just find time to just sit and read. Yeah, it's just really cool, and I'm really liking it, so I'm gonna get back on that. Since I finished that audiobook, I'm gonna pick a new one soon, but I have to look at my list because I don't remember what my TBR was. But I will pick a new audiobook to start very soon, and I will update you later on that. Quick before it's late bedtime. So it's late at night. It's like 11 o'clock. I'll show you quick. It's D&D night. Having a great time. So everybody expects me to be talking, so I think it's kind of okay if I talk a little bit about this. Oh, camera focus, please. Okay, so I just finished An Unkindness of Magicians, which was my Charms prompt white cover, which I didn't even tell you I had started. But I read it as audiobook. It's about wizards in New York City, and there's this big competition they have every year to decide which family is going to be in charge of, like, the unseen world is what they call it. And there's just a little more going on, and it's full of some interesting politics and fascinating things going on, but it was interesting. It was good. I gave it 4 stars. I was expecting it to be darker than it was. Not that it wasn't dark, but like Murphy Napier, this is one of her favorite books, and she always talks about how dark it is. And I was just a little underwhelmed by that aspect. I mean, it was definitely dark, but it wasn't by any means grim dark. But it was good. It was, if I had realized a little more what I was getting into, I might have realized it wasn't that dark and been a little more interested in it. But it was kind of cute. It definitely was dark. Like, don't go into this thinking it's, like, soft and fluffy. But, like, for a relatively dark book, it was also relatively light. I'm still reading This Is How You Lose the Time War. I'm about halfway through it. I'm loving it. It's just ebooks take me longer to get through than audiobooks. And I'll start Mrs. Houdini, which is about after Houdini dies, it's his wife trying to get in contact with him from beyond the grave. I don't really know that much about it beyond that. Anyway, I have about 5 more minutes and then I gotta get back to D&D, but like, I'm just gonna show you this again. This is my notes over here. I have like pages of notes. Maybe I'll do a special on my D&D because these guys are great and I love them. I don't know if they watch my videos, but I love you guys. Alright, bye.
Okay, why did it make you sad?
There's this whole like. I gotta explain the whole book to you.
No. Just tell me the sad part.
I can't just tell you the sad part unless you know the content.
Is it because your favorite character died?
No one's died yet. Well,
Does your favorite character have cancer?
no. Anyway,
Okay.
no. This whole book is this like weird time travel romance thing, but like not really. The time travel is kind of incidental. It's these two people on either side of this war, and like the whole way the war works is like operatives go up and down the timeline and change things
Okay.
that make like the outcome work out for them. It's really weird.
This is another book I need to read. Is it also in Ben's pile?
No, but I really do think you should read this one anyway. And it's like an operative on either side of this war start writing letters to each other.
Oh, okay. So it's a Romeo and Juliet type thing.
Yeah, kind of. But
But you gotta read more, so that way it goes back to being happy
yeah,
and
except
lovey.
there's only like, I mean, there's like, I don't know, both too much and too little left for it to work out. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, okay.
Can I?
Is there a second book?
No.
Oh, okay. What's the name of the book?
This is how you lose the time more.
Okay.
Okay, so I finished Mrs. Houdini, which I don't know if I told you guys what it was about, because I don't know, I'm bad at keeping track of what I've said and haven't said and what I've thought about saying. But it's about after Houdini's death, Harry Houdini's death, his wife, he had like always promised he would get in touch with her somehow in the afterlife, from the afterlife. So it's her trying to get in touch with him, figure out like what messages he left for her. It's also following that, and it's like alternating chapters, kind of like Cocoa Beach did, between that and then like her meeting and getting married to Harry Houdini, which is a format I don't like, because I've yet to like a book that did that yet. Well, I guess I liked it on a Sunbeam. But, so, it's kind of these concurrent stories, and it was okay. My mouth is blue. Oh my god, I've been eating Airheads all day. Yeah, it's just kind of okay. I was really hoping for some more supernatural, paranormal elements, and there weren't any. Not really. Which I guess makes sense, like, if you know, like, Harry Houdini was actually kind of a skeptic, like, he was trying to find proof of something more, but didn't, so it makes sense for the book not to have anything more. But I don't know. So, yeah, I gave it 3 stars, as it's kind of an okay. Still reading This Is How You Lose the Time More, and I think if I finish that, I'll be done with the 4 books that I needed to read for the Magic Zoologist diploma. I'm almost done with it, actually. I'm like 85% through it, and still really loving it. Everything I read, it's just making me like it more. The style is just fun and crazy in that way that I just love in books, like that nonsensical, I don't know exactly what's happening way. Yeah, I'm just really liking it overall, so I'm gonna finish that today or tomorrow, and then I'll decide whether I'm gonna keep going and try to finish also Hogwarts Professor, although I'm halfway through the month. It's only 3 more books, it's doable, so maybe. Also, have read more of words. Die Suche nach der Auge des Welt, dem Auge der Welt. This is why I stopped learning German. I've read a couple more chapters. I mean, I've read 2 chapters, which is more this month than I've read in a while, but I don't think it's gonna happen, but we'll see. It's the next day, it's about lunchtime, I'm gonna eat soon, but just finished This Is How You Lose the Time War, and oh my god, I loved it. I was a little worried that the ending would fall flat and I would end up hating it, or, well, not hating it, but liking it less, but it was amazing. It ends very abruptly, which is like one of my big pet peeves for books, that like they just kind of end and they don't feel like they finish. But it worked, and I'm not entirely sure there was any other ending they could have given it that would have been as satisfying, or would be at all satisfying, because just like, I don't know. But it's really, really good, and I don't want to accidentally talk about spoilers, so I don't want to like say too much. I will say I kind of wish I hadn't known it was a romance, because then it might have been more interesting reading their letters back and forth in the beginning to see what came of it with the, you know, it would have felt like more like a natural enemies to lovers, whereas like already knowing it was a romance kind of made it feel less like that. So I don't know, maybe I'll go and like edit where I say romance out of all of the clips about this so that you don't know that, although it's a pretty popular booktube book, as you probably already do. Other than that, like the world building was also like kind of amazing for how background it was to the whole story. Like this is a very, very focused story. Like it's very much about Blue and Red and their story, but despite that, it still managed to have like some pretty great world building, and so just like what the garden's like and what the other side, I can't remember what Red's side is called, and how they like want different things, and like the time war that's like referenced is like that whole like fight between chaos and order and like nature and technology, and it was just really, really interesting and fascinating, considering it definitely wasn't the point. So the next book I'm gonna read anyway, I'm gonna sit here on my computer during my lunch break and I guess read Scott Lynch's fan fiction of this book, because why not? But after this, I think I'm gonna read Beauty and the Beast, but I think I have officially finished the Magizoologist degree. And like I said, halfway through the month, I don't know if I'm really gonna finish the Hogwarts Professor, although technically it's only 3 more books, so I think it's totally possible. Or I could just really double down and try to finish Die Suche nach der Auge dem Welt. Maybe I should do that. We'll see. I do want to reboot Beauty and the Beast right now anyway, just 'cause it's a classic that like, it's always been my favorite Disney movie, so I feel like I should read it and get the real story, because like I've always been a fan of like knowing the difference between like, this is the actual fairy tale and this is how Disney made it child appropriate. So I don't know, but this will definitely not be the last clip. I will update you at the end of the month with what I did and didn't do, and like my overall thoughts. But yep, I think that's it for now. I don't know if I told you guys, but I've been picking Ravenclaw as my house. 'Cause that's what my boyfriend and my brother said I was. So I just get really excited whenever I submit a book on this list. It just feels real great. Just a quick update on the Magical Readathon. I'm an idiot. So I somehow got so focused on the number of prompts I needed to finish that I kind of lost track of which ones were important for Magizoologist. And so I was like, yeah, I've read 4 books. I was supposed to read 4 books. That's great. And totally forgot that one of the books I was supposed to read in order to get Magizoologist was Potions, which was Beauty and the Beast. So the good news is I was planning on reading that soon anyway, and I still have like a week of April left. The bad news-ish is I got in a weird Jane Austen kick and decided to start reading Sense and Sensibility. And the idea of reading two classical romances at the same time is really daunting to me. So I switched to audiobook for that, and I'm hoping I finish it in the next day or two, and then I can just kick Beauty and the Beast off this weekend. So that's the plan. Right, so it's Saturday, and I said I was gonna read Beauty and the Beast this weekend. The problem being I didn't finish Sense and Sensibility. I'm still only like 80% through it. So I could finish that instead. So instead of doing that, I think I'm just gonna jump into Beauty and the Beast this weekend and hopefully finish it today, and maybe it'll take till tomorrow. I mean, it's super short. So getting it done in a day or two, if it's the only thing I'm reading, seems really easy. Realistically, will it be the only thing I'm reading? I don't know. But we'll try to get through that. I do have some editing and stuff to do. I'm hoping to get a video out next week for the Asian Readathon, my TBR for that. Hopefully get that out before the end of the month, and then this video will hopefully be out very shortly into the month. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna start Beauty and the Beast, and I'll update you guys at the end of the day, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. At this point, I'm about a quarter of the way through Beauty and the Beast, and do I talk spoilers? I mean, the book's like 200 years old, and there's a Disney movie. Screw it. I'll put a little spoiler bar in case for some reason somebody doesn't want to hear about it, but I just got to the point where Beauty is left at the castle. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about this. I think I'm finding as I get older, it's harder for me to like care about or like fairy tale protagonists. They just come across as very holier than thou, sanctimonious, I'm better than you to me now. And that's kind of how I feel about Beauty. Like, she comes across as just so unlikable, I guess. Her dad was a merchant, and he ends up broke, and so like they moved to the countryside, and all of her sisters are sad about it, and but they're gonna work hard to make money and try. So Beauty is the only one that realizes how fake their lives were before, and how they have this opportunity to start again, and they should keep their chins up, and I don't know, it's just kind of annoying. But worse than Beauty is her dad. He is no Maurice. He's kind of an idiot. Dead of winter, when he's traveling back, and he comes across this like estate or this castle, and just goes in, which to me is bizarre. Like, I know I can't 100% relate, but I have been stuck in a car in a snowstorm with a dead phone in the middle of the night before. Like, literally have been in this situation, and the idea that I would pull off of the highway and just stop at some random person's house for the night, real weird to me. But you know, I guess like gas stations don't exist, so like he doesn't have a spot he can stop, so he stops and goes into this house. But then, and like he falls asleep, which I don't know, magic lulling him to sleep, but then he eats the food the next day. Like, he wakes up and he eats like a full meal. It's like weird. But I can stretch for the sake of a fairy tale that far, but then he straight up like jumps to the conclusion that this castle has been magically made for him, and he starts like looking in all the rooms and deciding which of his kids will sleep where, and loads up his horse with gifts for his daughter. It just like robs this place, and it's so that's the part that like really pushes my belief that like, well, nobody's here, yet somehow I'm getting food, so this castle must be mine. Anyway, and gets in trouble because he cuts a rose, and like reasonably, like, if you're already robbing the place, like, taking a flower cutting shouldn't be crossing a line, but it is, and I'm sure we'll figure out more about that. But, and then he's just kind of a jerk, so the whole deal is, like, he explains to the Beast why he was taking a rose, and the Beast is like, fine, I'll spare your life if you get one of your daughters to volunteer to take your place. And, here, I screenshotted this because my mind was just baffled by the dad's thoughts at this point. He's like thinking to himself, and I'll read the actual thing about like how awful it is, and he's just, could I be so inhuman as to save my own life at the expense of one of my children's? Under what pretext could I bring her here? Like, what a 180. Not, he goes straight from, how could I possibly ask my child to sacrifice themselves for me? Literally the next sentence to, well, how do I get them here? Like, dude. And like later he resolves to not send one of his daughters, but like he still does. And then the reasoning Beauty makes for going, it's not like I love my father so much, I will nobly sacrifice myself. It's all the other daughters are like, well, it's your fault he's in this situation, so you've got to do it. And she's like, I will do it because you've asked it of me. But like, it's just so like, I don't know, it's bizarre. Like the whole attitude is just very different, and maybe it's a product of the time or something, but like, just so weird. It's the next day. I know that's hard to believe because I'm in the same clothes in the same place, but that's just life right now. The one thing I want to say before I jump into the spoiler section of talking about Beauty and the Beast, I had always like recognized that there were parallels or borrowing from the myth of Eros and Psyche. Like when I learned that myth in like, I don't know, middle school, like I saw those parallels immediately, and the original story makes it just so much more apparent than the Disney one did, which is really cool to me that like this had those parallels more strongly, and then slowly I don't know, the evolution of a story is just fascinating to me. It's kind of why I like, the only reason I like Romeo and Juliet is because the Pyramus and Thisbe to Romeo and Juliet to all of the variations. Anyway, but I am gonna get into some spoilers now so that like I can talk about some other stuff, but I cannot say whether I'm liking this any more or less than I was before. I think it's a little bit more, but the message of it is becoming more apparent, and the message is not, don't judge a book by the cover, it's do your job, do your duty, and you'll be rewarded. It's just much more shallow and selfish because like the whole thing is, Beauty is staying with the Beast, in his castle, and he's giving her anything she wants. Like she's like through magic and stuff, but like she really likes theater. So like there's these 3 windows she can look. If she opens the shade on the window or the curtain on the window, it allows her to see a play or an opera or something else. And so she's like getting to experience theater. But the thing that really gets to me is, so every night the Beast like proposes to her and she says no. And there's this one line that comes up that was just like kind of gutted me. So it's Beauty like talking to herself when she's going to bed the one night, and she's like, the question he puts to me every time, will I marry him, proves that he persists in loving me. His bounty to me confirms it. But though he does not insist on my compliance, nor show any signs of resentment at my refusal, who will be answerable to me that he do not eventually lose his patience, and that my death will not be the consequence? And it just hit me. Because, like, the whole thing is he keeps asking her to marry him, and, like, being familiar with the story, I'm like, of course, eventually she will. They're gonna fall in love, blah, 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 blah. And then she says that, and I was just like, oh my god. It's that whole, if I say no to him, I might get hurt thing. And it just really put some stuff in perspective. And then the rest of the story just kind of felt changed because of that revelation. Like, when she visits her family her dad insists that she should marry the Beast, but not because she likes him, but because the Beast likes her and gives her everything she wants, so she should marry him. And that's like ultimately the message that comes out of this, is that like he is providing for her, so she should marry him. And that's her duty, is to marry him and forget about the man she's dreaming about, that she's in love with. And it's just a little icky to me that's the message. It's not love him even if you don't think he's pretty. It's marry him because he's providing for you. So that's kind of making it harder to like this. But man, Beauty is relatable in this. She's like got everything she wants, but she's stuck in this castle and she's just like, man, every day's the same. I'm getting awfully bored. And I'm like, same, girl. But yeah, no, the message in this is a little weird. I'm also only halfway through it and the curse has been lifted. And I'm really confused with where the rest of this is going. I'm not entirely sure what's happening now, but they're cousins? It's Monday now, so it took me a day longer than I planned to finish Beauty and the Beast. That's because the second half of it just like dragged so much. The way this story is structured is like the first half of it is Beauty's story, but then it kind of jumps back and it tells everybody else's story. So then it tells the Beast's story, which is another like quarter of it. And then there's like 2 or 3 more stories that are told after that. And I was really confused at the page count on this version that I had, because the edition I have is 148 pages and like everything else I was seeing was like 50, 60 pages. So I'm really thinking most of the stories just end with Beauty's story, and I really recommend that's how you read it if you ever read Beauty and the Beast, because the rest just were so boring. Just completely uninterested. I mean, like, I wish I had read this without knowing the story. Maybe then I would have been more interested in it. But not as it was. I just wasn't into it. So that wraps everything up. I will later today record my final thoughts and have this up in a week or 2. Please stop recording now.
How do I do that?
Just press the big red button on the back. So we're gonna wrap up the magical readathon owls. I don't know if I said that at the top of this video. Maybe I need to record an opening shot again. No, it's fine. I'm drinking some tea. I don't know what it's called. I'll put it in the description or top comment or something, because I threw away the wrapper already and don't remember what it's called. But it's like very berry, dangerously berry, something like that. It's delicious, like berry flavored chai tea. Anyway, that's not the point. That's not where we're at. For Care of Magical Creatures, the prompt was a book with a creature with a beak on the cover. So I read This Is How You Lose the Time More by Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone. I absolutely love this book. I don't know if it'll be an all-time favorite. I don't know how long it'll stick with me, but it's almost definitely going to make it on the favorites for this year. It's just amazing. It was this huge, fascinating world with the very fascinating characters and just wonderfully written in such a creative and interesting way. And I looked at the reviews, because I always do that when I rate a book 5 stars. So I looked at some of the reviews, and a lot of people were confused and felt stupid. So between this and Middle Game and The Bees, I'm starting to think I just like books that make me feel a little confused and a lot stupid. It was just a really cool way to tell this story, and it just kept surprising me. Like, even when I thought I had it figured out, there was always a new twist, but it wasn't told like it was supposed to be a big twist, like it was meant to be this huge revelation. It was always told in a way that was like, oh yeah, that's the way it should have happened. It was really good, and I really took my time with it, more than I expected to, because I just really liked it. For Charms, the prompt was a book with a white cover, so I read An Unkindness of Magicians by Kat Howard. I read it because Murphy Napier over on her channel recommends it. It's one of her favorite books, I think. I don't know. She hasn't talked about it much recently. But she describes it as like a dark underground magician world. That there's this magical world under New York that's just a little bit twisted. And I was just expecting, I think, a little bit more from that. Like, it was dark. I mean, people die and there's blood magic but I don't know. I think for me, the thing that was missing was a little bit of moral ambiguity. Like, from the beginning, there's the side that's right and the side that's wrong. And the side that's right feels like it's going to win because there isn't any question. Like, it's not like the side that's right is using questionable methods to get their results, or that the side that's wrong is, like, misunderstood. It was just pretty straightforward, and I think that's what was lacking for me now that I've thought about it a little bit more. But I would still really recommend it, especially if you're a fan of urban fantasy already. This might be a really interesting new twist to it. Or if you're a fan of things like Harry Potter that have that kind of secret underground magician's magic world, but you wanted something that felt a little more realistic, I think this is a good book for a lot of people. I just think I had hyped it up to something it wasn't in my mind. For herbology, the prompt was to read a book that started with M, and I read Mrs. Houdini by Victoria Kelly. Talk about a disappointing book. I really wanted, like, occult mystery and black magic. I wanted ghosts. I wanted a grieving widow willing to do anything to get her husband back, and that's not what this was. This was a brief love affair and some marital drama, followed up by just a grieving widow that was just a grieving widow that just kind of wanted to be left alone. It was just really, really boring. I mean, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't interesting for me. That's not the story I want. And I think from now on, if I pick up a book and in the first couple chapters it becomes apparent that it's a split point of view between a couple meeting and getting married, and then years later after the husband's death, I'm throwing it out a window, because this is the third book I've read this year that has had something like that, and it's just fallen flat for me every time. So for potions, I eventually read The Beauty and the Beast by, I didn't write her name down, I'll pop it up on the screen. This was for reading a book under 150 pages. The version I read was 148 pages. Looking on Goodreads, literally every version I could find was like under 60. I don't know, I don't want to dwell on it, we just talked about it. But it was really an interesting read. I'll give it that much. I think it would have been more interesting if I wasn't familiar with the story, so I wasn't sitting there like anticipating what would have happened. Like, Beauty's time in the castle would have been more interesting if I didn't know what the beast really was, for example. But yeah, just really long-winded, too long-winded. As for the rest of my plans for the month, I did read Someone Who Will Love You in All of Your Damaged Glory by Raphael Bob Wakesmerg for arithmancy, which was to read a book outside of the opposite or outside of your favorite genre. So I chose what was classified as a nonfiction, and I don't know, I don't really understand why it falls into that, because it was just short stories that were like about love, but I've heard it called a nonfiction. I don't know. In any case, I didn't really care for it all that much. It was just really all over the place for me. Some stories were really, really great and fun and interesting and felt like they were making a point that I agreed with or I liked, and others just were kind of terrible. They either were dumb or long-winded or didn't make sense, or I just really didn't either get or like the point they were making. To be fair, normally I probably never would have picked this book up. I don't really like BoJack Horseman all that much. So I wouldn't have picked it up for that alone. And none of it, I shouldn't have picked this book up, but it was recommended by Cindy from Read with Cindy. And I don't know, I wanted to try it because she made it sound good. So that's kind of why I added it to my want to read on Goodread, and I saw it for this and I was like, I can get it. So it was maybe a mistake to read. I don't think this book was for me. But technically, by completing arithmancy, I could have change my major, change my career goal to potioneer. But I don't really want to be a potioneer, so I'm going to stick with what I have. So other than arithmancy, I didn't finish any of the other prompts for Hogwarts Professor. I just didn't get around to it. I got distracted reading other things because sometimes I'm a horrible mood reader. It's fine. Man, I also didn't finish Die Suche nach der Auge dem Feld. Dem Auge der Welt. This is why I stopped studying German. I did read a lot more this month than I have in a while. But I'm still only a quarter of the way through it. I know it doesn't look like that, but like half of this is the glossary. But I'm gonna give myself a second chance because Watt on Prime, the Twitter channel for it, they're doing a Wheel of Time read along or Wheel of Time reread during like self-isolation to try to help people get through it, I guess. So I'm hoping they'll announce a full schedule soon. They've just posted the first one, and I'm hoping they'll post a schedule so I can sit here and tab this up. Not that I normally tab my books, but maybe that'll help me motivated if I give myself goals. And kind of try to finish it with them and their reread, because that'll give me a motivation. It gives me something to do. I don't know what to do to motivate myself to get through this, because I like it and I'm enjoying it when I pick it up, but I just never want to pick it up. So other than that, I have a few things I want to get through in May, in the next month. One would be continue this Jane Austen kick, maybe by the end of, maybe not May, but June, sometime this summer, I could get out a nice video of all the Jane Austen books. I think there's like 6. Murphy Napier, bless her heart, I got her a copy of Tuesdays with Morrie, because every time she talks about every day the road home gets longer and longer, it just makes me think of Tuesdays with Morrie. So I bought her a copy of Tuesdays with Morrie, and I bought myself a copy of Every Morning, and I told her in her note that if she started reading Tuesdays with Morrie, I would read every morning. And little did I know she's planning on starting it now. So as soon as that gets here, I have to read that. But more important than either of those things, I'm going to be doing the Asian Readathon. Check out my TBR for that. I don't know if I'm going to do a full blog for that or not, because I'm still not really sure how I felt about doing this one. I think my editing of that might make the decision for me. But I'm still really excited to do that. I'm really excited about doing a readathon again, because I really enjoyed this. And let me know either in the comments, or maybe I'll put a poll up in the cards. Should I try hosting a Wheel of Time themed readathon? I've been throwing the idea around all month, and if there's support for it, I might try organizing it. Maybe. Okay, that's it for now. Bye.